Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. This is Life, Liberty, and Levin Sunday, special edition. I'm the guest. My dear friend Sean Hannity is going to interview me for my new book on power. Sean, how are you, man?
Great one. How are we?
Good to see you.
How am I? Thank me.
God bless us.
By the way, thank you for having me. This is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because I have been a guest on your show, and now I get to interview you. This is the book. It's on power, and like your other 8, 9, 10 number one New York Times bestsellers, this may be one of the most powerful.
Well, thank you.
This book, I would argue, is ripped from today's headlines. And it really, what we are experiencing as a country right now, and the radical left, and that would be Mamdani in New York, that would be AOC, the Squad, Jasmine Crockett, she's one of my favorites, Grandpa Bernie, or Pocahontas, you know, they are really the power structure within the Democratic Party. And I would argue in a broad overview, not to get ahead of ourselves, they want power. It's all about power. Mm-hmm. But there's negative power you write about, and there's positive power. Let's get a broad overview.
It's interesting you point them out because every one of them are Marxists and or Islamists. And Marxism is incompatible with Americanism. The Declaration of Independence is really the greatest, most concise document on positive power. Why? Because those of us who believe in representative government and republicanism, in Americanism, we understand that the sovereign is God. And on earth, his children are the sovereign, we the people, not the government, not the ruling class. And when you read the Declaration of Independence, it basically explains this. It talks about unalienable rights, eternal, universal truths, and so forth. Where do they come from? Well, they don't come from mankind.
Endowed by our Creator.
Endowed by our Creator. God is mentioned or referenced in the Declaration of Independence. This is why the people you mentioned never mention the Declaration. Or if they read it, they take God out of the Declaration. This is why Marx hated the Declaration. They reject individual liberty. They never talk about it. They reject unalienable rights. They never talk about it. And so the battle we have in this country, as you so well explain about these people and us, is a fight over power. And a fight over power is a fight over liberty and rights. And so I got to thinking, we talk about liberty all the time. We talk about rights all the time, which is fine. But if we don't win the debate over power, then we don't have liberty and we don't have rights. So it doesn't matter.
I was not as articulate when I wrote Deliver Us from Evil, defeating terrorism, despotism, and liberalism. And people would say, well, why are you accusing us of being with them? Because if you don't defeat the underlying political philosophy, that is what you end up getting stuck with. I want to go to a bigger, broader overview. Earliest civilizations to modern republics of the West, power has been used to liberate and oppress, to reward or exploit, build or destroy. This is what you write in your book. This book goes deep and hard into the philosophical underpinnings of this battle that we're discussing.
Well, that's exactly right. Let's take a look at Islamism, not Muslim, not the Muslim faith generally, Islamism, the jihadis.
Radical Islamists.
The radicals. They have a lot in common with Marxism. Why is that? They reject the Enlightenment. What's the Enlightenment? Positive power is America, is Americanism. It is the fusion of faith, the Judeo-Christian principles, and the Enlightenment. Locke, Montesquieu, others who taught us how to apply these principles, these beliefs at an earthly level in forming a society, a civil society, a government that represents and nurtures the civil society. Most ancient societies, that was not the case. They were more primitive, more barbarian. Islamism today is that. It's in the 7th century. Never went through the Reformation, doesn't embrace the Enlightenment. But neither do the Marxists. They reject the Enlightenment. They reject divided power, which is very crucial to a free society, power checking power. You talked about those reprobates. You talk about Mamdani. What do they talk about all the time? Power and government. They just don't articulate it that way. So the war is against us, the individual, the sovereign, we the people. For instance, Mondami talks about taking over the means of production. From whom? From us. From the guy that makes the pizza, from the guy that makes the steel, from the guy that makes whatever he makes. It doesn't matter. He's talking about eliminating the private housing market. Well, what does that mean? Government controls housing. Government controls the means of production. He talks about affordability. Do you know a single Marxist society that's affordable? Their shelves are empty. What he really means when he's talking about that is an attack on capitalism. Why? What is capitalism? In a couple of words, capitalism is the manifestation of your liberty, your voluntary actions. They talk about getting rid of billionaires. Why do we care if there's billionaires or not? The average person in America lives better than any king or queen lived 100 years ago. They have more access to food, different types of food, transportation, automobiles, flights, air conditioning, heating, so forth and so on. Affordability. He'll talk about affordability because why? Because those who believe in negative power, the centralization of power, they know humans are imperfect. We know that. We know that our institutions are imperfect. So they take the imperfections and they try to exploit them. And they try to use those imperfections to seize power from the individual. So Mondami is really running against the individual. He's running against freedom. And my concern is that we don't know how to engage these people, and we need to engage them. So if there's a billionaire over here, he doesn't affect me. I can still do whatever I want to do. I can still get the food that I want to get. I can still get the home I want to get. And for all I know, he's a good billionaire who creates 100,000 jobs. So why does it even matter to me? Why? Because I wrote in my book, American Marxism, at length about oppression and oppressed, right? The oppressors and the oppressed. This is critical to the Bernie Sanders and the rest. They create this conflict ideology. It's constant conflict ideology. So who is supposed to step in there and make sure that these conflicts are resolved? The government. And why do they step in to make sure these conflicts are resolved? Because they want to pick the winners and losers. So I go into the book about how this power affects modern days, how it affects the economy, how it affects free speech and language and rights and all aspects of human society.
It's a good broad overview, and I want to dig down a little bit deeper into what you're saying in this book, because it's very profound. I could sum it up with one statement that you made: the character of the government we choose. We always say elections matter. Maybe that's a little cliche during election years. Well, elections matter. Of course they matter. I mean, Kamala Harris would have won. You and I both would have had a stroke, but the country would have suffered. Look at the decisions she would have made. More open borders. She would have taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegals and convicts, and we're going to have feminine products and grade school boys' bathrooms and taxpayer-funded college education, et cetera. But what you say, the way you say it, is the character of the government. The people will either flourish or you say they will suffer. We do suffer. Those elections do matter.
The elections matter, and what the negative power crowd has done, which is basically, I call, the Democrat Party exercises soft negative power, unlike, the genocidal regimes. But they borrow the ideology of the hard negative power crowd, the Marxes and Hegels and others. I won't get into the weeds. But the point is this: it is a relentless assault on our Constitution. What I call it is the deconstitutionalization of our society. And to put it in two words, what they represent is authoritarian democracy. Your example, the vote. If Kamala Harris had won, she would have won the vote, but she's authoritarian. That's the ideology. And so voting does not ensure liberty. Democracy does not ensure liberty. The proper application of power ensures liberty. So authoritarian democracy, again, is what this Mondami is really running on, an all-powerful government. It's what the Democrats believe in. The government should control everything. The government should control health care, housing, you name it. The government steps in and handles it. That's authoritarianism. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about the people and sovereignty at all about that. So you have a relative handful of people and a permanent government making decisions. So, but you go through the motions. So you vote. You go through the motions. So you have an electoral college. But the trajectory is towards centralized government, massive bureaucracy, taxation, redistribution of wealth, and there's no limit because they don't give us a blueprint of where they want to take us because there's no limit on the amount of power they want to accumulate.
I actually took notes because you said it so succinctly at different times during the books, and I would extrapolate out different things that you're communicating because I really want the viewers at home to fully understand the philosophical underpinnings. And you rightly talk about, this goes back, you know, from civilizations, and you go deep into the founding, our founders, our framers, our Declaration, our Constitution, but also the philosophical underpinnings and the great philosophers that were behind a lot of this. It's very educational for anybody. You're going to love this book. But I'm just going to say what you say on power. It determines your personal fate, the fate of your community, the fate of your nation. Power matters in every aspect of one's life. The American Revolution is important and an obvious example of power properly pursued and exercised. And then you go, and history is replete with examples of tyrants grabbing power, all in the name of liberty. We're having, America is having this debate in real time. Mm-hmm. That's why I say rip from the headlines. This is a real debate. New Green Deal, Mamdani, Kamala Harris, you know, Joe Biden, open borders, you know, cradle to grave, womb to the tomb, to each according to their need, from each according to their ability. All of this comes to my mind as I'm reading this book.
And I have a chapter on language. For positive power, language is important. We learn, we share knowledge, we try to persuade, we can keep our government in check. It's the communal, the people communicating with each other freely, new ideas, different ideas. Maybe a minority idea becomes a majority idea. Free speech is critical. But for negative power, the people of which you speak, they want conformity. They want true believers. They want compliance because they don't believe in individual liberty. They don't believe in individual pursuits, which is why they're constantly attacking capitalism or billionaires or millionaires or anybody else they don't like. So even though we engage this ideology at a surface level, what I'm saying in this book is we need to engage it at a more fundamental level and explain to people that fundamentally we believe in liberation of the individual. We believe in the pursuit of the individual. The government that was set up by our framers is exquisite. The world has never seen anything like it. And what is it that the other side's peddling? Ancient, primitive, barbaric ideology that claims that a relative handful of people, that somehow God has anointed them to make all these decisions for us. What we eat, where we eat, what we drive, and then they pretend that they have the power that God has over the climate, over the weather, over all these things. And language is key. But for them, language is thought control. Let's look at wokeism, which I mentioned in the book. What's that all about? Controlling thought, controlling language, pushing us more in their trajectory. You'll destroy somebody's career, you'll destroy their life, you'll give them a scarlet letter. Word control. New words you must learn and use, old words you must redefine.
I can't keep up with all the letters and words and
nobody
phrases.
can.
I can't. Who can keep up with it?
But the whole goal is to control thought and to prevent free thinking, independent thinking, which is what you and I support, which is what makes society so strong. So language control is thought control. They're into language control. That's what wokeism is all about. And they're into controlling economic parameters for people. They're into controlling you and me. So I always say, go back to the Declaration. What is the Declaration of Independence? We know what it is. Thomas Jefferson and others told us. He wrote the first draft. It's the fusion of the Judeo-Christian principles and belief systems with the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment is the earthly application. We are the sovereign. Now, what the other side tries to do, and the other side is evil, they try to pretend that they represent us, that they support the people, that they're doing things for the people. 100 million people have been slaughtered in the name of the people under Marxism. The People's Republic is neither for the people nor a republic. So what I do in my chapter on language, I say, is we really need to pierce this. We really need to address this. We need to take our language back, and we need to unravel the propaganda that they use.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.